Welcome to Tiny Hands Big Dreams here in the homestead in southern Ecuador. News, happenings, things going on.
Just gonna do a little bit of Ecuador news. We've got health, crime, and the weather.
Probably some other stuff as well. We've never gone off on a subject or nearby subjects.
We don't tangent at all, ever.
Yeah. All right, so what's going on in Ecuador? Honestly, in English, there's not a ton of news.
Okay, so we start with kind of the thing that's on the news a bit, is there has been an outbreak. They use outbreak for everything, of whooping cough cases, as well as yellow fever. We've had some people sort of ask about it, thought we'd touch on it. The yellow fever, this is as of recording, 4 cases in the whole country. Whooping cough, 321 cases. These are not huge numbers.
They're not historically interesting. They're not. I would
traveling reference mostly.
What people aren't talking about, there actually has been a rash, and I don't have any numbers on it, is dengue fever.
They are talking about it very much in the news.
She watches the news more than me.
It was a huge thing.
Quite possibly I at least had.
Oh yeah, probably. Lots of people do.
I know a bunch of other people that,
Oh no, it was way bigger than anything else. There
was a lot of people. It's a virus. You get a fever, you get sick.
It's mosquito transmitted.
You go down for a couple days, then you're like, oh.
Some people have it worse. Now, all of these, we're not going to get into the politics of things. They all are relatively moderate, mild, unless you are small human or in some way compromised health-wise.
Yeah.
Otherwise, for normal people, it is an illness. It sucks. You get over it and you move on.
I've talked to locals and they're like, oh, I had to go to the hospital. I'm like, oh, what did they do? Nothing.
Yeah.
They let you sit in a bed and they monitor you. And they give you, I guess, aspirin or some other stuff to make you feel better. But
it's not terribly different than having the flu.
It's like the flu.
They're not that bad.
Make sure you drink fluids. Keep track of your temperature.
Sometimes, of course, you can get a secondary infection or problem from that, and that is person to person as an issue. Now, because of the whooping cough cases and the fact that is primarily within children, because children are nasty little creatures that cough on each other.
They're gross.
It's just a fact.
They're gross. They touch everything. Schools are just a breeding ground.
Because of that, in at least 4 provinces, it's mandatory for the next 60 days for kids to wear masks. I'm not going to get into the mask conversation. We're not going to go there. We all have our own opinions. It's just something to know. So, it's just something to know. I don't think there will be any issues with traveling if you are looking at traveling here. Okay, I'm going to interrupt myself here real quick. There's a whole bunch of updates. I am putting quotes up on the screen right now to tell you about the updates as far as traveling to and within Ecuador. This is what we know as of May 7th. I don't really think there's going to be any issues. I can't say for sure. They may start looking at, you have to show a vaccine for... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be travel issues. If I see anything, I'll throw it in the comments or something of this video.
Yep. As
an update. But for right now, it doesn't look like there's any travel restrictions or requirements or anything.
Yep.
Just is.
We're not actually concerned.
No, but it's just a point because people asked. So I answered. Crime.
Well, there was...
Crime is crimey.
Yeah. The crime... what was the 2 maps we found that overlaid real neat?
Oh, are we going to go there?
Oh.
Okay, we'll go there. We try not to go in... I guess it's not political. It's vaguely political. The incidents... I don't know if it was incidents of crime.
If you're living under a rock, Noboa won the election?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the election results map by province was also very similar to I can't remember the exact map, something to do with crime. I'm thinking something to do with murders. Just my guess.
Yeah, there was like a crime heat map of like where there were,
and they happen to be
like a glove,
rather similar. And those were not the ones that voted for Noboa. So we'll just leave it at that.
We just scratch our heads and go, huh.
You can just look at that and interpret it how you would like.
Yeah. So problem areas that we hear about crime.
Kind of same as always.
Same as always. Near Colombia, near Peru.
The coast.
There's problems with the coast, but port cities, things. Guayaquil's having a terrible time of things.
It's real bad. There's also sort of the Napa region, I know, has been having more and more, which is like the northern Amazon. They're having a lot of problems. I think that is mostly due to Colombia, because it is not the main route, it is not the main border crossing, but it's sort of the sneaky crossings. That's my guess as to why they're having issues there.
Yeah.
Now the crime, I think, by perception of what I see, I think it's increasing, and I think that is probably a direct result of the election results.
Yeah, so there was the cartels really sort of had a foothold into Ecuador for quite a period of time because the politics things, it was allowed.
There was massive amounts of corruption.
Drugs, massive corruption, and that's all ebbing. And they're fighting back because they're being pushed out and or getting arrested and or like all these things. So there is strife between criminals and people bringing the law.
Because it's finally actually being brought. Because it just wasn't for a long time. So there's going to be strife. It's going to continue. Or I think it's probably going to get worse for a little while. And then hopefully better. I mean, there is a lot
It's the same as fighting a flu. It gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of arrests happening. There's a lot of, what's the word I want? Raids, I think is what they call them. A lot happening. And like we're talking massive amounts of drugs, weapons, things.
Including people that are politically connected.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting tidbits there.
So yes, there's still crime. It's relatively bad in a lot of areas. I mean, we've seen some rough videos. It's not everywhere, just like we always say.
Yeah.
The sun has come out. I'm sorry if the
cicadas are going to start.
Well, no, I'm just sorry if it's very bright.
Oh, yeah.
It's very bright in my eyeballs.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice.
Don't have anything new on the south of Loja, Vilca, kind of Malacatos, except for the road is closed.
We'll get there, though. That's the weather part.
I was going to go crime.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any new news on crime, but new news probably means the same news of it's still bad. There is many problems. It is not a safe area, is what we're told by people that live there.
Yeah. Now, as far as other things that have something to do with crime, now there was an incident in Yanzaza, which we know about because that is our nearest big town city.
Yeah, it's not far that way.
And we got sent...
Like, we go there.
By neighbors.
Weekly.
The information. We don't have a lot of details about it.
No, we got a video. There's actually, yeah, like I know people that managed to have like the actual video on like their phone. They sent it to me. Nighttime, downtown Yanzaza, someone is talking to somebody on a motorcycle.
I think two somebody on a motorcycle.
To somebody on a motorcycle. They clearly knew each other. All of a sudden, person on motorcycle shoots person in head, falls down dead. Motorcycle rides off. Cops show up a little later, arrest both people.
That is the extent of what we know.
We don't know
if it's gang, drug, cartel related, or if it's just an interpersonal strife, which also happens absolutely everywhere in the whole wide world.
But it's interesting because it's close to us, so it's like, there's one. And we normally say, like, there's nothing.
Things happen everywhere.
One is not nothing. But if we look at any big city in the world...
Or small... I mean, I'm sorry, I listen to the true crime. I know it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
That stuff happens everywhere. It could simply be a something with somebody's wife.
It's a big deal here because there generally isn't.
It could be a larger problem. It could also not be. Again, we don't know.
If we find out more, they did arrest the two people. So there is
Something's happening.
Right. There's probably going to be a court case and a thing.
If we know more, we'll let you know.
Yep.
There's also seems to be a bit of a crackdown on the illegal mining. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
The artisanal mining, which makes it sound so nice.
Like bread and muffins.
And water. Artisanal spring water. No.
Yeah.
Artisanal mining here is not so great. And it seems like they're really starting to crack down on it.
It's more like rebel or renegade mining.
It's giant mess mining.
Probably, yeah. So they go in, there's no rules, no restrictions. They busted one with drills and dynamite and some other equipment and things. Like, they were clearly making a lot of destruction and a lot of noise.
Yeah, we're not talking about going and panning for gold. We're talking about like a
so there is
serious operation.
Yeah, there is talk about like they're starting to go after people, and then I've seen just less activity in the river.
Yeah.
Like, it just, the huge rock piles, I'm like, I don't see it. It's just
not
littered
continuing
with the excavators, and it used to just be excavators. Like they could play tag with each other all day. Less.
Now, is that because it's the rainy season? Maybe. We'll see. But I know that was one thing that with the election, that was a big topic of conversation. And it seems that perhaps we were headed in the direction of a little less, which would be good.
Yeah. The new president says he is pro of mining of resources, but only in a legal fashion.
That is then controllable and regulated, so it's not as horrendously destructive.
And helps the economy and follows laws and stuff.
Things like that, which
we shall see.
All right. Weather. It's weathery.
We have all the weather here every day.
It was raining when we started this video. In fact, we had to wait for it to stop raining so hard, and now it's sunny. This happens multiple times a day. It's exciting.
We live at the edge of the mountains, so it like changes often.
And then it does another thing, and then you just have to kind of bounce around. But in general, the country at large is still very much underwater, and it's a mess. And it's
now we have had a very mild winter.
Here, us.
It has been pleasant. We have some mucky areas. Our paths are mucky. Where the pigs are is mucky. We haven't lost anything. We haven't had any major damage. We haven't had...
Honestly, our little road has fared relatively well, given the fact that it's winter.
Yeah. It has been a very mild winter for us. Now we go down the road further and we see the big river. And the big river has been a big, mad river.
Rio Zamora is
never seen it that high in the years we've been here. And then we look at places So,
sorry.
That means she wants to talk.
Well, it just news like right now happening. I mean, the whole country is sort of underwater, but the Cotacachi area, Imbabura, if I say that correctly, is really bad right now. They got hit really, really hard. So there's a lot of like small, basically anywhere where there's a lot of small communities, they end up getting cut off because their roads just disappear. And they're only going to fix the big roads. They're going to fix big roads first, and eventually sometime get to the smaller roads.
Well, sometimes there's multiple failures on a road to somewhere. They can't get to the smaller ones, so they clear the bigger ones. But yeah, there's like main highways knocked out. There's whole mountains that have slid down, and there's just massive levels of rubble.
There's still the, I'm going to say it again, Chagarapamba road to the coast, still closed. I think it's open occasionally for certain light vehicles sometimes, and then completely closed back and forth. That's been for, I don't know, a month now, maybe more. So it's kind of a mess there. There's also the Nangora sector, which we've talked about before, is on the road from Loja to Vilcabamba, Malacatos. It is...
Poo.
It's so bad.
It's gone poo. Like, I've driven that road.
I'll put up a video of it
so many times, and I just look.
It's so bad.
That is unstable geology. I'm not a geologist. That's a bad pile.
Now, we have unstable here, which is just clay, and it's unstable in its own way. But unstable there is just rocks that just tumble and fall into the road.
Round rocks and sand, and the whole mountain is made of round rocks and sand. And once you break the crust on it, and it starts to tumble, and then more tumbles, and then you've opened up things that are going to tumble, and then you look at it and it just goes for hundreds of meters, really steep, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. Oh, poo.
So for right now, it is intermittently open some hours of the day. It is scheduled to be closed for, I think, 2 weeks. Just completely closed, 24/7, completely closed, absolutely no traffic, while they try to fix it in a larger way.
It is unsafe.
It is completely unsafe.
Like, if you go and you watch boulders come rolling down, when I say boulders, they could be anywhere from a baseball to
A boulder.
a boulder. It will mess up your car. And they just come down the hill, and you kind of watch them, and you kind of dodge them, and then there's only like one lane, and the other people are trying to dodge them as well.
Well, and that's why they've closed it at night right now, so that at least you can see the rock that's coming towards you. But they are going to completely close it to try to fix it in some larger way. I have no idea what they're going to do to fix it, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, last year they had the same problem there, and then they went and they sent an excavator up to like try to scrape a little away. No, it's the whole mountain, dude. And now you've made it worse by like digging on it. You've like loosened it.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do to fix it.
You have to move the whole mountain to a lesser degree.
So that is going to be closed. And what that means, this is important if you're either visiting or if you're looking at where you may want to buy property. You have to think about where is likely to be cut off. Because there are places.
South of Loja is
Now, because they're
rough.
going to close that, the only way to get from Loja to Vilcabamba is going to be to go from Loja to Catamayo and all the way around. I'll try to put a map up that like I highlight that route.
Yeah.
It's a long way.
Catamayo is the airport for Loja.
Mm-hmm.
That is its own pass.
It's a big path.
And it also has problems and is generally one lane in places.
And sometimes closed.
And sometimes closed.
Now, right now, it is intermittently open because of, what do they call it? The road is leaving. Not that they're...
Subsidence?
Subsidence. Which is a much bigger deal than the hill above it coming down on it, which can be cleared away. If the road's leaving, that's a big deal. That's just something to think about. We did not maybe consider that as much as we could have. We just got lucky with where we are. The larger cutoff from supplies, that means if you live south of Loja and basically you have to go to Loja to get any significant amount of things.
That's where all the supplies for all the communities all the way to Peru get things, is down that road.
So either you have to go to Loja or they have to truck from Loja all the way around. And
the Gordon Road is not a major road. It's not in great repair. We've taken it. Like it's
not great.
It's like a little canyony kind of road on the side of the hill. Which I'm sure
is going to have its own problems.
With now a ton of traffic. Yeah, and its own problems. And then if you're going south from that, if you look at the road closures, very often you get more and more closures on the passes and the roads going all the way south. Our friend in Zumba, he gets, like, I look at it sometimes and there's 3 complete, like, no. Like, the road is just closed. So getting back and forth is dicey.
We'll put the road closures in a link in the description. Like we always do whenever we
If you're coming to visit or planning to move here, that is a good link.
Yeah, the amount of times we've checked it to make sure that something's open. So all of this is also going to affect anything goods-wise. I was reading about how there are whole communities where their crops are just not. They're just not happening. The crops that are in the ground are rotting. They can't plant new crops. They're just stuck. That's affecting those small communities so much. Yeah. There is no... We were talking about this last night. There's no buffer for people here in those kind of communities. I lost my train of thought there. So
let me throw a tidbit.
Thank you.
When you look at buying stuff here, a lot of stuff is inexpensive, at least compared to the U.S. But then certain things are more expensive, and you kind of scratch your head. So there's I think it's a 12% tree. There's like a 12% tax that's added, tariff if it comes in from the U.S. to Ecuador. But often you see things that are double in price. generally double is sort of the rule by the time it gets here and people have dealt with it. So there's like this huge markup for importing. But if you look at what people sell for locally, all right, Toby, we're buying things here. People run on a really thin margin. Like we go to buy corn, and on a 100-pound bag of corn, last price was like $24, and they mark it up like 25 or 50 cents at the store. Like it's really small. Some stores might mark it up a whole dollar. When you look at that at a percentage-wise, you're like, it's nothing. And that's honestly a store. The typical merchandise in a store might be 10 or 15% markup. You know, if they get 20, like they're sort of beside themselves. Well, and then if you even
look at like from say someone's growing corn to sell, their margin is incredibly small.
Yeah, or growing pork. You look at the cost that it takes to feed the pig and like run the operation, and then what they sell the pig for, and you're like, I don't understand how you make any money on this.
And that's just kind of how it works.
They basically have to scrounge around to like not buy them some food and feed them something else in order to make any money at all.
Yeah.
They go out of business a lot too.
So it's just something that when the weather affects, you know, anyone here, I would call them farmers. It's a little different than like U.S. farmers, but it affects them really significantly, even if it's only like one crop.
Small family farms are the rule. Larger farms are an exception.
That's true.
In the U.S., it has become just mega farming is the rule.
So it's affecting a lot of those small communities. I also think it's going to have some sort of trickle-down effect for everyone, because I think the prices have sort of dropped on things again. I feel you said the corn is
went back
cheaper.
Down. It had spiked up pretty high. God, we were like $27, $28, I think, for 100 pounds, and now we're down to $23 and change, $24.
I think eggs went back down just a little bit.
Yep.
Now some of that may be more local to us, and so it may not be as affected. Some areas of the country may be more affected. It's just something interesting to watch. Now, interesting, if we buy eggs anywhere in town, any of the stores, they just come in flats, 30 count flats. They call them a cubetta. And they're, I want to say $3, $3.40, whatever they were last time. I think they were like $3.40. If you go to the Tia, which is the big like grocery store kind of corporate-y place, I think they were like $3 something a dozen, and it was like $5 or $6 for the cube. And I'm like, how do you even sell eggs here? Who buys these? Because right there across the street and everywhere else, they're like half the price. All of the big stores, the Tia, the Super Maxi, the Granite Key, those are all just more expensive. Even if it's the exact same thing from the exact same truck, it's just more expensive. Yeah. Well, that's all I have. And the sun is very bright. Sweet. Yeah. Anything else? That's it. That is news and tidbits from the Ecuador. A lot of the same, not, a whole terribly different. If people ask, like, which area is good, which is that, look, we moved to the area we thought was good. We're always going to say this area. We're always going to say this area. It's the Oriente. It's safe. The weather's been better than everywhere else. You can buy land and live happily and on all those things. So that's what we do, and that's where we are. And it's a beautiful sunny day, so we are going to go try and get something done. Yep. Okay. Thanks for watching. See you for the next one.